You're listening to Inside Real Estate with Irv Tremblay on Newstalk 980.
Irv, good to see you again. How have you been?
Terrific, Dave. Thanks for having me back on the show.
So, going into cyclocross season, I mean, before we get into the nitty-gritty here and the dirty details,
right.
That's one of your favorite times of the year, isn't it?
Well, sure, and I'm surprised you even know about cyclocross. This is supposed to be about real estate, but we can talk a little bit about cyclocross. Do you know what it is?
I have no idea, man. I got nothing.
Well, cyclocross is a fun sport. It's in between mountain biking and road riding or road racing, and so a little bit like a road bike. You do it in a short course, usually in a park or something, and you ride. You run over barriers, you go through sand, and you go through mud. So if you like to get dirty and in the mud, it's a great sport. And it's a great spectator sport because it's a short course and you get to watch the whole course.
You get to actually see everything going on.
Yeah, a few years ago, Lance Armstrong was in a cyclocross race in a football stadium in Las Vegas or someplace, and there was 35 or 40,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun, and it is the season.
And this is one of the things that you enjoy doing when you do get a little bit of time.
Well, you can actually come out and see a provincial race at the Science Center later on today.
Huh, good stuff. That's a nice venue, too, down through that area. That's gorgeous.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of mud there these days.
That's been a lot of mud everywhere,
well,
I think,
sure.
for about
so
the last 6 months. So
sure.
Not to muddy the waters, but clear them up. The
Sure.
markets, looking at some of the numbers, the last time we talked, I think in the city and the surrounding area, there was something like 1,600 listings, which is a pretty high number. We were looking back to, I think, 2007 to kind of get those type of numbers. Now, that was last time around. Whereabouts are we now?
Stuck in the mud still, Dave.
Oh, man.
We're stuck in the mud. In the city, we're just in the city, over 900 listings. In the surrounding areas, White City, Lumsden, as we mentioned on the last show, we're over 1,600 still. So we are stuck in the mud.
So there's a sizable inventory that's sitting there and
Sure.
hasn't reduced over the last while.
No, it hasn't, and it's causing lots of problems for sellers, and it's causing lots of problems for agents. And it can cause problems for buyers as well, which we can talk about all those problems. So the market is such that there's lots of inventory, very few sales.
And there's some kind of hot zones and hot areas, too, where typically always tend to do well. And usually that kind of $250,000, $350,000 range is kind of one of the hot zones. How's that range doing?
Well, I'll cover that range off, but total sales so far, 195 sales and only 72 houses under contract that have offers. And I have to say, that's pretty pathetic for September, because September has been, in the last 4 or 5 years, a pretty good month. So it's a poor month. So let's talk about the Northwest, areas 1 and 2, as an example. And good place to live, good areas, Walsh Acres, Lake Ridge, those areas. West Hill, Norman View West, Uplands. So the hottest market, 250 to 350. Right now, there are 88 homes for sale in that price range.
Wow.
Actually, I'm wrong. There's 94.
94.
So if you are a buyer, you have a choice of 94 homes in Area 1 and Area 2 to choose from. 94.
In that price range.
Right. There are only 6 with offers.
Wow. So unless all of them came on the market in the last 20 minutes or so, that's not good.
That's not good at all if you're a seller. And it probably isn't good for a lot of those agents trying to explain to sellers what to do to get their home sold. I can tell you that bothers agents a lot. They don't want to pick up the phone, and they don't want to call their client every week and tell them what they have to do, because the clients really don't like that news, because often it is improved condition
or
reduced price and sometimes raise commission. Well, let's go further. Let's go $400,000 plus. So you have between $400,000 and $500,000 to spend, and sometimes there's 5 or 6 homes in those areas to look at. Right now, you have 42 homes over $400,000 in those areas to choose from.
42.
Now, I'm going to put you on the spot. 42. Of the 42 sellers trying to sell, how many have managed to get an offer?
Well, based on what you're telling me before, probably not as high as I would guess. What's the number?
1.
1?
1 of those people have an offer. That's pretty poor numbers.
Those are lousy numbers.
So there's 399 people with their house over 400,000, or 40 people over 400,000, 40 sellers that don't have an offer on their property. And they're wondering how they get an offer on their property. And very often, the agent has trouble spelling out what they have to do to get the home sold. So that's the market. That's an overview of the market.
So it's going to be a little bit tougher if you're a seller, perhaps. Maybe an opportunity for buyers, though. And I know we want to get into the buyers in just a little bit. But what about if you are a seller in that market? I mean, what are there some do's and don'ts at this stage of the game?
Well, let's say you are thinking about putting your home on the market. I only would advise you to think about putting your home on the market if you have to sell.
So this is not the time for a fishing expedition?
No. And have to sell, transfer, have bought another house, things like that. If you are just thinking you might want to move to another house and sell yours, probably isn't a good time to do it. Unless you have went out and bought a house and you think you got a real deal on it because of the market, and now you're going to sell yours. If you are moving up because the house that you're buying that's $200,000 or $300,000 more than yours has went down more than yours would have went down, so you're actually gaining in that respect.
So you're gaining in the actual total dollar value because it's a proportionate amount probably, but at the higher ticket price,
right,
you're going to, in essence, save yourself more if you are moving up.
Sure. So you have to be really careful about putting your house on the market at this time. And if it fails to sell, you know what happens is it shows up that it's a failure even if you try next spring. So that's not a good thing. You don't want to put your house on the market right now unless you have to sell.
Now, when you're looking at that, this has got to be a key time where you have to really interview an agent. If you are thinking, let's say, okay, you have to sell your house, you really have to do your homework up front.
Well, sellers don't do a good job of this. Buyers do a worse job, but sellers don't do a good job on this. They just don't. They don't interview. They don't ask enough questions. Most agents don't provide the answers, even if they don't ask those questions. They don't get track record. And when I talk about track record, I mean track record in the last month. I don't mean track record back in 1979 when you got your license. You want to know how that agent handles a downturn in the market and how many homes they've sold, how many expireds they've had in the last month.
Which is a sign of failure.
And so you really want to check that track record out and interview them and see what their plan is to get your home sold in this market.
And they better be able to explain to you what you need to do.
Sure.
As a seller.
Yeah.
Irv, we need to take a quick break. Stay with me through the break.
Sure.
Time to turn the key. You're listening to Inside Real Estate with Irv Tremblay from Century 21. The website to check out, www.irvsells.ca. That's irvsells.ca. And the number to call, 790-3753, 790-3753. Back with more in a moment.